Hello students, today we will be discussing urban ecosystem and biodiversity. By now all of us we know what is urban ecosystem, isn't it? Yeah. And biodiversity, I believe all of us we understand biodiversity. Maybe we don't actually have gone through a definition. Bio and diversity, both the terms are quite known to us. Now let us see what we are going to discuss under this particular lecture. We will be discussing, we will be starting from the urban nature. We will be discussing also different types of urban nature. That is very interesting. Then we will be discussing urban biodiversity. We will be trying to understand the difference between the terms or phrases of urban nature and biodiversity. The basic difference only. Then we will come to the biodiversity typologies. And why these particular typologies are required, that also we will discuss, because biodiversity is a very multidimensional concept. Then we will come to the next point, that is cities as biodiversity hotspots. We will also discuss very interesting cases there under this biodiversity hotspots. Benefits and challenges of urban biodiversity, and the last topic for today will be measurement of biodiversity in cities. How we can do that. First is urban nature. What is urban nature? Urban nature, all around us within the cities, we have some fragments of this urban nature, which represents the total geographic extent of nature in an urban setting and forms the physical foundation for ecosystem functions and human well-being. So that's the definition part. What it does, urban nature supports ecosystem services such as climate regulation, urban cooling, urban heating can be controlled, stormwater management, carbon sequestration, mental and physical health benefits, aesthetics, and cultural values that urban nature can provide. What are the good examples of urban nature? Around us, we can always see them. It can be urban forest, wetlands, rivers, streams, lakes, parks, street trees, gardens, green roofs. These are good examples of urban nature. Urban nature encompasses all living organisms within a city, including plants, animals, fungi, and microbes. So, every scale of life is included into the concept of urban nature. It consists of both expansive, relatively wild green blue spaces like parks, rivers, wetlands, and also more humanly managed elements like gardens, street trees, green roofs, etc. Here is a good diagram which talks about the functions and processes which we experience in urban nature. The basic functions like food, work, provision, living, recreation that is happening, interactions and feedbacks are always a part of any ecosystem, any system rather. Regional influences are there, global influences are coming, and on top of it, we discussed about anthroposphere, which different layers, when they are interacting within an urban setup, they are creating. What are the processes involved? Physical processes like evaporation, biological processes like growth of plants, chemical processes like ozone formation, and different spheres who are involved into it, every sphere actually, atmosphere, urban climate, biosphere, gardens, parks, people, pets, urban wildlife, everything comes under this biosphere. Pedosphere, we discussed that urban soil which gets lot of modifications. Hydrospheres, urban waters which are almost fully managed. So this in totality are the representation of the functions and processes of urban nature. Now, the typology of urban nature we'll be discussing. Here we can see there are four different types. Each type contributes differently to ecological and social functions. The urban nature one is the remnants of pristine landscapes. Second one is patches of agrarian landscapes. Third one is designed urban green space. And the fourth type is the novel wild urban ecosystem. Let us have a look at each one of them. The first one, nature one, remnants of pristine landscape, near natural forest, wetlands within city boundaries, high native biodiversity, minimum human alteration. So then that particular nature will be part of this nature one. The patches which are having, which are like semi-natural farmlands and meadows, moderate biodiversity and cultural value, they comes under the typology 2. The third one, nature 3, designed urban green spaces, parks, gardens, green roofs, highly managed lower wilderness potential. And the fourth one, the novel wild urban ecosystem, they are going to happen when we have the abandoned lots, brown fields, railway edges, spontaneously regenerated they are, and they are often have high ecological novelty. So, through an image, let us understand this nature 1, remnants of pristine landscape, nature 2, patches of agrarian landscape, nature 3, designed urban green space, nature 4 is the novel wild urban ecosystem. What happens? We can see the historical natural condition is gradually reducing from nature 1 to nature 4, whereas ecological novelty is increasing from number 4 to nature 1. And urban wilderness potential is very high in case of nature 1 and nature 2, nature 4, whereas in the nature 2 the wilderness potential is medium and it is least in the case of nature 3. So, if we try to look at the ecological spectrum which I discussed here, then native species dominates early types, nature 1 and nature 2, and non-native species dominates nature 3 and nature 4. Urban wilderness potential, as we discussed, the peaks are at the both ends of the spectrum, nature 1 and nature 4. They are high, medium or small in managed or designed green spaces. Next thing we will be discussing is the urban biodiversity. Urban biodiversity refers specifically to the variety and abundance of species within urban nature, including number of species, species richness, their population size, thus the community, and ecosystem diversity. Measurement, species richness, abundance, presence of native versus invasive species, and ecosystem diversity are the key indicators through which you can measure the urban biodiversity. Urban biodiversity supports resilience of urban ecosystem. It contributes to ecosystem services, pollination, pest control, enhances cultural and recreational opportunities, and promotes human nature connections. We can continue the discussion further, and here we can discuss the strategic context of the urban biodiversity. Urban biodiversity is shaped by both socio-economic choices and ecological processes, structuring the biological communities across different habitats and land use types. Urban biodiversity highlights that the need for balance between natural components and socio-economic interventions in order to nurture biodiversity in cities. What challenges it faces within the urban areas? Habitat fragmentation, pollution, invasive species, urban heat island effect, and human disturbance threaten biodiversity persistence. Now we will be discussing urban nature and urban biodiversity. They may have some very interesting common terminology in their definition discussion, but they are two different concepts. Let us understand those key differences one by one. Urban nature, that refers to all life in a city, including expansive and relatively wild blue-green spaces, as well as gardens, green roofs, street trees, birds, and butterflies. Whereas urban biodiversity is the variety and the abundance of life in a city. So we can further continue this discussion, and here you can see that urban nature and urban biodiversity, the differences can be understood from different aspects. Like from the focus, we can see in the urban nature the presence of living organisms and natural systems in cities. That is the focus. Whereas in urban biodiversity, the focus lies in the variety and richness of those living organisms. The scope of urban nature is always inclusive of all life and ecosystems within urban areas. It's a qualitative, inclusive concept. Whereas urban biodiversity, it talks about the diversity within those ecosystems, quantitative, measurable. The next aspect we can discuss how to analyze them. Urban nature, the unit of analysis is spaces and systems like parks, rivers, roofs, wetlands. These are the different units. Whereas in the urban biodiversity, we analyze them with species, genes, and ecological relationships. The goal of urban nature is to integrate nature into urban design and improve livability, whereas in the urban biodiversity, the goal is to sustain ecological balance and ecosystem resilience. So you can easily understand the difference now. Measurement, how we measure them, extent and distribution of blue-green spaces in case of urban nature. In case of urban biodiversity, we measure species counts, richness of the indices, habitat diversity. These are the measurement counts. What are the examples? Green roofs, lakes, gardens, whereas urban biodiversity examples are bird species, diversity, tree richness, soil fauna diversity, etc. Now we will be coming to the next segment of our lecture, that is the urban biodiversity typologies. Different biodiversity typologies exist because biodiversity itself is multidimensional. It varies not only in species richness but also in structure, function, spatial configuration, and its relationship with human system. It's an urban system, so definitely human system has to be part and parcel of it. Each typology captures a different lens of ecological organization and purpose. So let us see these typologies first. Habitat-based typology, which takes care of spatial or ecosystem typology. Functional typology, which includes ecological role or services. Compositional typology, which is being done, which is being identified through the biological composition. Socio-ecological typology is defined by the social interconnectedness. Temporal typology, successional stages, disturbances, and regeneration. This becomes a part of temporal typology. So, the first typology of the urban biodiversity, as we just now discussed, that is the habitat-based typologies, which is actually based on the spatial or ecosystem typology. Its focus is the distribution, configuration, and connectivity of physical urban habitats such as parks, forests, wetlands, rivers, and green infrastructure. One very simple thing to remember, that in the same urban area, there will not be uniform biodiversity. Why this non-uniformity? That gets explained by this habitat-based typology. Why they have different niche. Spatial arrangement determines accessibility, species movement, and the extent of ecosystem services. The different frameworks which have worked based on the concept of these habitat based typologies are: one is World Bank's conceptual urban biodiversity planning framework. Next one we can mention Kowarik, who has developed the permeability of urban matrix. Habitat fragmentation and landscape metrics for biodiversity is another important framework which is based on this habitat based typology. Next, urban biodiversity typology is based on the ecological role or service, that is the functional typology. And its focus lies on ecological processes and services which are provided by the urban ecosystems. And this includes climate regulation, water purification, pollination, recreation, and cultural services. The significance of this functional typology lies in the evaluation of the roles urban ecological systems play in supporting human well-being and city functioning. So it's a ecosystem services based. The frameworks which are based on this typology: Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. I think all of us we remember this reference. We are using it quite often. The next one is also another seminal one, that is Convention on Biological Diversity, Cities and Biodiversity Outlook report, which integrates ecological services in policy. And this is the reference for that, Secretariat of the Convention of Biological Diversity. Compositional typology, this is done based on the biological composition of species. The focus is biological composition and diversity, biological uniqueness and community structure, types and abundance of plant, animal, fungi, and the microbial species present in urban system. That is the focus of this compositional typology. This is a very significant typology which tracks the compositional diversity, which is central to assessing and conserving biodiversity. So, this particular typology helps in this conservation, which is very important. The frameworks which are based on this typology are the National Biodiversity Strategy Action Plan, India, which catalogs compositional diversity for urban policy and planning. So you can easily see that it's a very action oriented typology which helps in direct action planning. The next one is the socio-ecological typology. Focus is interactions and feedbacks between human society, governance, and urban nature biodiversity. It evaluates management practices and human nature relation. Its significance lies in participatory planning, stakeholder involvement, and management regimes. The frameworks which are getting support from the socio-ecological typology are the socio-ecological frameworks advocated by Elmquist. And again, the cities and biodiversity outlook, which I was referring just now, this also highlights management based approaches. This particular topology, which is actually having a very strong interconnectedness between the socio-economic processes and the ecological processes, and you go through this image and you will see how urban biodiversity is actually interacting and how this socio-ecological typology is looking at habitat and ecosystem types, land use types, these varieties. Genes, functional types, and the species, they are important parameters for this particular biodiversity type. The temporal typology, the successional stages, as I was mentioning, it focuses on the changes in urban biodiversity and habitat structure over time. So, very interesting. It is starting from something and it is becoming something else. So it looks at the succession, disturbance, restoration, historical transformation it records. Through this, we can track the long term dynamics, resilience, and ecosystem recovery trajectories. The frameworks which are depending on this temporal typology, we can mention long term frameworks from Sukop and Quarik. There are n number of researches on successional stages and adaptation in urban habitats which are based on this temporal typology. Now we will be coming to the cities as biodiversity hotspots. Although cities are often viewed as biodiversity cold spots, recent research shows that actually the areas can be very active. They are very strong biodiversity hotspots. Areas with unexpectedly high species richness and ecological variety, especially where green space proportion and structural complexity are high. Maybe they have some legacy as well of pristine ecosystem. Urban environments host diverse microhabitats, parks, courtyards, gardens, walls, wetlands. They allow species to coexist. Cities situated within or near global biodiversity hotspots also inherit, as I was just mentioning, the legacy, global biodiversity hotspots. They also inherit and maintain rich native diversity, including many endemics and threatened taxa. Urban areas may contain diverse habitat mosaics, remnants, natural ecosystems, and support the species uniquely adapted to urban environments. These habitats can provide niches for a wide range of native to endangered species. Cities often host species specifically adapted to urban conditions and some taxa like birds, pollinators, and which are more diverse and abundant versus the agricultural landscape. It's a very interesting graphics here. You please look at it. You can see in this particular graph on the y-axis the richness, and in the x-axis we can see different spaces where this biodiversity hotspot has been mapped properly. You can see these are the different aspects which have been mapped: arthropods, bears, birds, bryophytes, vegetation, pollinators, and then you can see certain images here and you can easily understand why they are lying in the places where they are. You just see this is a square which is having some green. Here the green is much less than the square, but here the green is almost absent and we can see different type of biodiversity. Whereas you come to the right hand side and you can see the richness. The richness is also increasing and we can see that richness is increasing the proportion, and we can see that system itself. It's a very strong system which is having dense canopy and lot of good cover. So it is having lot of good species as well. So the cities as biodiversity hotspots, this particular study comes from Munich. We will also look at some good interesting examples from other cities like Cape Town, which is next to the Table Mountain. Actually, it is encircling the Table Mountain almost from all the sides, and it is having a very high biodiversity. 190 plus endemic plant species it is having. Mumbai, one of the dense city of India, but it is adjacent to the Western Ghat. Sanjay Gandhi National Park is in the city, where more than 280 bird species are there, 40 mammals are there, including leopards. And coastal biodiversity is also there. So many butterflies are there. So you can see the species richness in a city like Mumbai as well, because they're actually within the biodiversity hotspots. Singapore is within the biodiversity hotspots of Sundaland. Highly urbanized city state, we know Singapore, but look at the diversity. 2000 plus vascular plants, 52 mammals, 364 bird species, 301 butterflies, protected natural reserves, continuous new discoveries. That is Singapore. Nairobi, you come to the city from the airport, you have to meet giraffes, zebras. That's the type of rich biodiversity you can see there. Lions, rhino, zebra, giraffe, 400 plus bird species, large mammals, African mammals. Mexico City, it's a Mesoamerican biodiversity hotspot. So 3,000, around 3,000 plant species, 350 mammals, 316 birds, about 2% of known world biodiversity. So just imagine how strongly rich they are in the biodiversity. Stockholm, Sweden, boreal biodiversity hotspot. Its national urban park is hosting high diversity within the city center itself. So these are good examples to get that comfort that biodiversity within the cities are quite strong. Now let us see the benefits out of this biodiversity. So environmental benefits, air and water quality, urban wetlands, riparian buffers, they can filter also. Climate regulation, we have discussed it, urban heat island. Disaster risk reduction, like mangrove, which can act as a buffer against flooding as well as the cyclone, strong wind, rising sea level rise. So, these are the environmental benefits which we can get out of the city biodiversity if we maintain them. Social and health benefits, mental health and well being. Once you go to the park and you come back, you are a different person and you meet people there that will add to your well being. Educational opportunities, schools, community groups, and research institutes, they can always engage with this biodiversity hotspots. Social cohesion. Biodiverse parks, community gardens, they can always extend hearty welcome to the community people, and that can be the place where people from diverse background can come, connect, and strengthen the social bonds. And that's the way the neighborhood identity can be created. Economic benefits, property values. Yes, that's very true. If your property is next to a very strong biodiversity hotspot, it is going to have a premium. Tourism and recreation. Almost every weekend, we can see how people try to go out of the city and try to go for places where they can really have some relaxation. So that's the way income and employment both can be generated. Urban agriculture, which can actually improve the food security of any city, and you, the citizen, can get the fresh food. And the process itself will support the pollinators and will also help to get the diverse crops. But there are challenges as well to the biodiversity. Habitat loss and fragmentation, like urban growth destroys and fragments the habitats. Pollution, air, water, noise, soil, light, everything is polluted if the proper management is not in place. And these disrupt the species health, behavior, and key ecosystem processes. Invasive species is another challenge. They outcompete, prey on, or introduce diseases to the local species. Climate change is adding another layer of challenge because the sea levels are rising, the temperatures are rising, rainfall patterns has changed, extreme weathers we are experiencing these days. And the last challenge is the limited awareness. Disconnect from nature in our life. That is one of the strongest challenge because this hampers the public support for biodiversity friendly policies. and that is very important. The people's participation and the conservation action, etc., will be much easier then. We'll be discussing the next segment, the measurement of the biodiversity in cities. This is measured at multiple levels like species, genetic, and ecosystem diversity, and we often focus on the species richness, abundance, and habitat quality. We are having several indexes, we will discuss them. We will also discuss that how these data sources, how the data are being collected, species survey, remote sensing, citizen science records, spatial mapping of habitat connectivity. These are good way to create data. Robust measurement is very important for having this biodiversity in place positively. Regular monitoring is required, and the baseline or reference sites that can be the benchmark. We can consider the native versus the non-native species. So these are the indicators like species diversity, and we can see lot of frameworks are actually using them, like Singapore Index. World Bank is using it. Ecosystem diversity, again Singapore Index is using it. Chan also propagated that. Connectivity, World Bank has talked about it. Ecosystem services, Singapore has talked about it, that Convention of Biodiversity has talked about it, and we will also discuss later on. Dr. Gretchen has worked on it. Threats and pressures, World Bank has talked about it, urban biodiversity, NBSAP, they have taken these indicators. Governance and engagements, we can find these particular indicators in the Singapore Index and also CBD. So today's summary, we can say urban nature and types, urban biodiversity, urban nature and biodiversity, the key difference we discussed, biodiversity topologies, cities as biodiversity hotspots, benefits and challenges of urban biodiversity, and how we can measure them. These are the list of references for you, and thank you.